On one side, Pink Floyd, building worlds, emotion, and timeless masterpieces. On the other, The Who, pure force, raw energy, and explosive impact. Two icons, two completely different powers. But when everything is on the line, albums, hits, touring, legacy, only one can truly come out on top. And this is where it gets decided. Pink Floyd began in mid-1960s London out of a Cambridge circle of art students and musicians, with Syd Barrett shaping the group's early identity through whimsical songwriting, psychedelic imagery, and experimental guitar textures. Roger Waters, Richard Wright, and Nick Mason built the musical framework, while Barrett gave them their first distinct personality and underground buzz. Emerging from the UFO club scene, they quickly became one of Britain's most intriguing counterculture acts, blending surreal pop, improvisation, and sonic exploration into something stranger and more ambitious than standard rock. The Who began in London from the meeting of Roger Daltrey, Pete Townshend, and John Entwistle, then fully ignited when Keith Moon joined and completed the classic lineup. Evolving from early rhythm and blues roots in the high numbers period, they became the ultimate mod band. Sharp-dressed, loud, volatile, and rebellious, their explosive live shows, instrument destruction, and fierce energy made them stand out instantly. From the start, The Who sounded aggressive, youthful, and confrontational, turning teenage frustration into one of rock's most powerful early identities. Pink Floyd's first real breakthrough came in 1967 with See Emily Play, a hit that pushed them from underground psychedelic favorites into the British mainstream. Syd Barrett's imagination, the band's surreal presentation, and their London club momentum suddenly connected with a wider audience. That success established them as one of the most original groups of the psychedelic era and gave them national visibility before their later progressive rock transformation. It did not define their ultimate peak, but it proved early that Pink Floyd could turn experimentation into commercial impact. The Who's first major breakthrough was My Generation, the furious 1965 anthem that captured youth rebellion better than almost any song of its era. Its stuttering vocal, aggressive attack, and defiant attitude turned the band into a cultural force, not just another British group. The single and album gave them their first signature statement and helped define the mod explosion. From there, The Who were no longer simply promising newcomers. They were a dangerous, exciting band with a voice that instantly felt generational. Pink Floyd's albums changed the scale of rock ambition. They turned the LP into a cinematic, conceptual experience where sequencing, atmosphere, artwork, and thematic depth mattered as much as individual songs. From psychedelic experimentation to emotionally heavy concept records, their catalog became a blueprint for progressive and album-oriented rock. Commercially, they were colossal. Culturally, they made long-form rock feel prestigious, immersive, and intellectually serious. Few bands built a studio catalog with such consistent weight, and even fewer made albums that remained ritual listening for generations. Number 3, Wish You Were Here, 1975. Wish You Were Here proved Pink Floyd were not a one-album phenomenon after Dark Side. It reached number 1 in the US, sold in huge numbers worldwide, and deepened their reputation for emotionally resonant, high-concept rock. Its reflections on absence, fame, and Syd Barrett made it more intimate than their previous blockbuster, while songs like Shine On You Crazy Diamond and the title track became canon-level works. Its legacy is immense, a fan favorite, a critical landmark, and one of rock's most enduring albums. Number 2, The Wall, 1979. The Wall turned Pink Floyd into arena-scale storytellers without losing their darkness. It topped the US chart, sold on an enormous global level, and expanded the band's reach through its theatrical concept, film connection, and the crossover force of Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. Its themes of alienation, power, and psychological collapse gave the album unusual emotional weight for a blockbuster rock release. Decades later, it still stands as one of the most famous concept albums ever made. Number 1, The Dark Side of the Moon, 1973. The Dark Side of the Moon was Pink Floyd's commercial and artistic supernova. It hit number 1 in the United States, became one of the best-selling albums in history, and set the benchmark for chart endurance with its legendary Billboard 200 run. Its seamless production, existential themes, and universal accessibility gave progressive rock a mainstream blockbuster. More than a hit album, it became a permanent cultural object, a gateway record for new listeners, an audiophile reference point, and the defining center of Pink Floyd's legacy. The Who albums reshaped rock by combining raw power with ambitious storytelling. They pioneered the rock opera with Tommy and expanded it through Quadrophenia, proving albums could carry narrative depth and emotional weight. Records like Who's Next blended hard rock energy with innovation, influencing generations of bands. While not always the biggest sellers, their albums became cultural cornerstones, defining youth rebellion, identity, and theatrical rock. Their impact lies in transforming albums into both explosive statements and meaningful artistic works. Number 3, Quadrophenia, 1973. Quadrophenia showed The Who could still go bigger, deeper, and more emotionally detailed. The album expanded their rock opera ambition into a darker, more layered portrait of identity, class, and youth disillusionment. It performed strongly, became a major critical touchstone, and later gained extra life through its film adaptation and recurring stage revivals. Its legacy is enormous because it combines the band's power with some of Pete Townshend's richest writing. For many listeners, it is the most complete artistic fusion of brains, brawn, and drama in the Who catalog. Number 2, Who's Next? 1971. Who's Next is often seen as The Who at their purest peak. Huge riffs, deep emotion, futuristic synth textures, and arena-level confidence. It may not have the narrative sprawl of Tommy or Quadrophenia, but it arguably delivers the band's strongest collection of songs, including Baba O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again. Its sales and stature have grown across generations, and its reputation in rock criticism remains towering. In legacy terms, it is the album most often cited as The Who's definitive studio statement. Number 1, Tommy, 1969. Tommy was The Who's great leap from powerful rock band to world-changing album act. Its sales, stage adaptations, film life, and long afterlife made it their biggest conceptual triumph. Commercially, it turned them into an elite album band. Culturally, it helped legitimize the rock opera as a serious form. The songs, characters, and narrative ambition gave The Who a scale few peers could match in 1969. Its legacy reaches beyond rock charts into theater history, making it one of the most important albums they ever made. Pink Floyd were never a traditional hit singles machine, yet their biggest songs became enormous cultural fixtures. Their hits worked differently. They often arrived as fragments of larger album worlds, but still broke through because the melodies, concepts, and atmosphere were unforgettable. Another brick in the wall, Money and Wish You Were Here, each found long lives far beyond their original chart peaks. Their hit legacy is less about volume and more about permanence. They produced fewer giant singles than many rivals, but several became generational standards. Number 3, Wish You Were Here, 1975. Wish You Were Here represents Pink Floyd's emotional side at its most direct. It was never their biggest chart single, but in legacy terms, it has become one of their most loved and most covered songs. Its acoustic intimacy and aching sense of loss gave the band a human vulnerability that balanced their grander conceptual work. Over time, it has grown into a universal anthem of absence and remembrance. In pure cultural memory, it stands alongside their biggest songs despite a smaller initial chart impact. Number 2, Money, 1973. Money was the song that helped open Pink Floyd to American hit radio audiences during the Dark Side of the Moon era. Its odd meter groove, cash register intro, and blues rock bite made it unusually accessible for such a cerebral band. Though it peaked below the top 10, its long-term impact has been far greater than many higher charting songs. It became one of Pink Floyd's definitive tracks, a classic rock radio mainstay, and one of the clearest examples of the band turning experimental instincts into mainstream appeal. Number 1, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, 1979. Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2, was the rare Pink Floyd song that fully crossed into mass pop territory. It hit number 1 in the United States, carried the wall to an even wider audience, and gave the band their most recognizable radio smash. Its disco-tinged groove, children's chorus, and anti-authority hook made it instantly memorable, while the underlying concept kept it distinctly Floyd. In legacy terms, it is their biggest single, their clearest crossover moment, and one of rock's most iconic chart toppers. The Who hits had an impact far beyond their chart positions, becoming defining pillars of classic rock culture. Songs like My Generation, Baba O'Reilly, and Won't Get Fooled Again captured rebellion, power, and emotional release, shaping the sound of hard rock and influencing punk and arena rock. Their music became a staple in films, sports, and live performances, performances, ensuring constant exposure. Rather than dominating charts, The Who created timeless anthems that continue to resonate across generations and define the spirit of rock. Number 3, Won't Get Fooled Again, 1971. Won't Get Fooled Again stands as one of rock's greatest declarations of anger, skepticism, and release. Though it was not a #1 pop single, its scale, the famous scream, and the song's political bite made it a cornerstone of The Who's legacy. It remains essential to their live mythology and to classic rock culture overall. More than a hit, it became an event, a track that audiences wait for, critics revere, and generations keep rediscovering as one of the band's most thunderous achievements. Number 2, Baba O'Riley, 1971. Baba O'Riley grew from album track to cultural institution. Its synth opening, heroic release, and massive emotional payoff made it one of the most beloved songs in classic rock, even though its original chart performance was modest. Over time, it became one of The Who's signature works, fueled by constant radio play, sports arena use, film and television placement, and live impact. In legacy terms, it is arguably their most universally recognized song today, proving that chart peaks and cultural reach are not always the same thing. Number 1, My Generation, 1965. My Generation is The Who's most important hit because it crystallized their identity in one explosive statement. Even without reaching number 1 in the US, it became one of the defining rock songs of the 1960s and the band's ultimate youth manifesto. Its stuttering vocal, aggression, and confrontational spirit made it instantly iconic. The song's legacy has outgrown chart math completely. It is a historical marker, a permanent classic, and the track most responsible for turning The Who into symbols of rebellion. Pink Floyd's tours turned rock concerts into architectural events. Their shows fused sound design, giant staging, film, inflatables, lasers, and concept-driven sequencing in ways that permanently raised expectations for arena and stadium production. They toured less often than some peers, but when they did, the scale was enormous and the visual imagination was industry-shifting. Their live reputation rests not just on musicianship, but on immersive design. Pink Floyd proved that a rock concert could feel like cinema, theater, and spectacle without losing emotional force. Number 3, The Wall Tour, 1980-1981. The Wall Tour was not Pink Floyd's largest commercial outing, but it may be their most influential live creation. Its giant physical wall, narrative structure, projections, and theatrical staging changed the imagination of what a rock show could be. Because it was expensive and only played a limited run, its direct attendance totals were smaller than the later blockbuster tours. Yet its legacy far outweighs that limitation. In live history terms, The Wall became a mythic reference point, ambitious, difficult, and unforgettable. Number 2, A Momentary Lapse of Reason Tour, 1987-1989. The A Momentary Lapse of Reason Tour was both a commercial comeback and a legitimacy test after Roger Waters' departure. It passed spectacularly. The tour sold almost every venue, drew roughly 4.25 million people across 200 shows, and generated more than $60 million in box office receipts, while setting venue records and topping yearly touring conversations. Just as importantly, it re-established Pink Floyd as a global live institution, proving the brand still had massive drawing power and that their large-scale visual language remained unmatched. Number 1, The Division Bell Tour, 1994. The Division Bell Tour was Pink Floyd's live commercial peak. It drew over 5 million fans, grossed more than $150 million worldwide, and was announced as the biggest tour ever at the time. Beyond sheer money and attendance, it reinforced Pink Floyd's reputation for overwhelming stagecraft, with giant structures, elaborate visuals, and full album moments that felt monumental. Because it became the band's final full-scale tour, its legacy gained even more weight. It was not just a blockbuster run, it was Pink Floyd's last giant statement on stage. The Who's tours built one of rock's most ferocious live reputations. Their influence came less from giant visual concepts and more from sheer force, volume, intensity, danger, and emotional release. They helped define the modern hard rock concert, where physical performance mattered as much as the songs. Over decades, they also proved unusually adaptable, turning concept albums like Tommy and Quadrophenia into recurring stage events. Their touring legacy rests on raw power, legendary live chemistry, and the sense that a Who show could be explosive at any moment. Number 3, 1982 Farewell Tour. The Who 1982 Farewell Tour was one of the biggest live events of its time, attracting around 1 million fans across North America and generating tens of millions in ticket sales. Marketed as their final tour, demand was massive, turning each show into a historic moment. The band delivered powerful performances that reinforced their legendary live reputation. In terms of impact and legacy, it set an early blueprint for large-scale farewell tours and proved The Who's enduring commercial and cultural strength. Number 2, 1989 Reunion Tour. The Who 1989 Reunion Tour was a major commercial comeback, drawing massive crowds across stadiums and arenas and generating over $50 million in revenue. The tour featured a large, expanded lineup, delivering a more polished and orchestrated sound compared to their raw earlier shows. Audience demand proved their enduring popularity even years after their supposed farewell. In terms of impact and legacy, it re-established The Who as a global live force and helped set the template for large-scale legacy rock reunions. Number 1. Quadrophenia and More Tour, 2012-2013. The 2012-2013 Quadrophenia and More Tour showed that The Who could still turn their catalog into a premium arena event decades after their peak. Grossing $42.4 million, it combined nostalgia with genuine dramatic power by performing Quadrophenia in full and then hitting the audience with a greatest hits second half. Its significance was not just financial, it reaffirmed that The Who's concept material still worked live at scale, and that Roger Daltrey and Pete Townshend could still command large crowds with authority and emotion. Despite their iconic rock career, Pink Floyd have not won many awards during their career. They have won one Grammy Award for Best Rock Instrumental Performance for Marooned. They have won two BAFTA Film Awards, including Best Sound for The Wall and Best Original Song Written for a Film for Another Brick in the Wall. The band has also won two Ivor Novello Awards, including International Hit of the Year for Another Brick in the Wall and Outstanding Contribution to British Music, in addition to two Juno Awards, including International Album of the Year for The Wall and International Single of the Year for Another Brick in the Wall, and won MTV Video Music Award for Best Concept Video for Learning to Fly. Pink Floyd were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as part of the 1996 class. The Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall were both inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. The Dark Side of the Moon is the longest charting album in Billboard 200 history, nearing 1,000 weeks on the chart. The Who also did not receive many awards despite a huge and groundbreaking career. Despite multiple nominations, The Who never won a competitive Grammy. They received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2001 for their overall contribution to music. My Generation, Tommy, and Who's Next were all inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. They received one Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music in 1988. The band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1990 as one of rock's most influential bands. In addition to being inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame in 2005 for their impact on British music, The Who received the Kennedy Center Honors in 2008 for Lifetime Artistic Achievement and the Freddie Mercury Lifetime Achievement Award in 2006 for their impact on live music. The Who pioneered the rock opera format and helped define modern arena rock performance style. They are among the first bands to turn albums into full narrative concepts. Pink Floyd's legacy is built on scale, permanence, and transformation. They became one of the few bands whose albums feel bigger than eras, shaping progressive rock, concept albums, live production, and the entire idea of rock as immersive art. Their best records remained commercial giants and critical landmarks at the same time, which is rare. They were not merely influential musicians, they altered the expectations around albums, concerts, visuals, and atmosphere. Few bands in history have matched their mix of ambition, mystique, and endurance. The Who's legacy is rooted in impact, attitude, and invention. They helped define the violent electricity of live rock, the rebellious voice of youth culture, and the dramatic possibilities of the rock album through Tommy, Who's Next, and Quadrophenia. Their chart numbers do not fully capture their stature because their songs became part of rock's foundation. The Who influenced hard rock, punk, arena rock, and live performance culture, and their best work still sounds urgent, muscular, and emotionally direct decades later. The Who built one of the fiercest legacies in rock history, rebellious, explosive, innovative, and absolutely essential to the genre's DNA. But Pink Floyd win this comparison because their commercial peak was bigger, their album catalog sold far more, their Billboard dominance was stronger, and their studio legacy became almost unmatched in rock history. The Who may have had the rawer live mythology and one of rock's greatest identities, but Pink Floyd combined artistic ambition with larger sales, larger album impact, and a broader long-term global footprint. That was a close one, but the next showdowns on your screen might be even closer.